First of all, I just want to thank Jesse's Journey and everybody here that is here today. Jesse's Journey, it's been an honor to work with you guys for the since January, as Perry said. So in January we talked and we realized that our goals were very similar. And when we had an opportunity to work with them, we did a first family forum in May in London, Ontario, and I had the honor of being part of that as well. And the more that I got to know the team here at Jesse's Journey, the more I knew how passionate they were about the cause. And that's something that we are very passionate at PTC as well, about the families. And as Rick said, my job at PTC is patient engagement, patient advocacy, and it is also to learn a little bit about each and every family out here. As John said earlier, the inspiration, just meeting each and every one of you, each of these families, I am inspired by basically the strength that each and every one of you and these boys have, and girls as well, that I've met throughout these past 4 years working in Duchenne. Patient advocacy was not something that I felt that I was going to do, but as Rick said, 4 years ago, actually it was more than 13 years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare disease. It's called lysosomal acid lipase deficiency, and when I first heard the term as well, I had no idea what it was. And actually my career prior to being a patient advocate, I was a police officer, SWAT commander for 22 years. Finally retired from that in 2014 because I was diagnosed with a rare disease. And when I was first diagnosed, it was one of those diagnoses where there wasn't much hope out there. And Perry talked about hope a little bit earlier, that hope is what it was about. The information that I had when I was first diagnosed for lysosomal acid lipase deficiency was not much out there. There was no hope. So I decided, you know what, I just had my third child. I have 3 girls. They are now 15, 13, and 12. And at the time, my youngest was 2 years old. And in my mind, it's like, okay, I'm not going to be here for them, to walk them down the aisle, to see their kids. The information out there was I was only going to be around for a short time. So instead of just kind of thinking, you know what, there's not much I can do, I decided, you know what, I'm going to be a patient advocate for myself. I'm also going to be a patient advocate for others that are diagnosed with this disease as well. So I started a nonprofit back in 2011, and we worked very hard. We were able to educate a lot of the different community members out there, a lot of the medical community as well, about the disease, and I became passionate about it. And I guess what I'm getting at with this story is I became a patient advocate because of the way that the people in the industry treated me and my family. So the people that were developing a treatment, I was the first patient on the clinical trial for my disease, and they kind of took me under their wing, and I was cynical at first. It's like, okay, what does this drug company want from me? And after working with them for a short time, I knew that they were very caring, compassionate, and they wanted to help me and my family, and they were there for me. That's how kind of what I do with my job as well. I want to be there for the families. I want to be there to help you in different ways. And I'm going to talk a little bit about I got a slide a little bit later that talks a little bit about how the compassion that I was given when I was going through my process, it actually kind of shaped me where I am today. So again, PTC Therapeutics, just a quick background about PTC Therapeutics. We've been around for 21 years. We're the first company that actually started working in the Duchenne space. We're based out of New Jersey, South Plainfield, New Jersey. And this picture in here, it's hard to see, but middle button right there. Right there, that's our CEO. So our CEO, Stu Peltz, he actually discovered treatment, or actually Adalara Translarna for nonsense mutation. Some of you may have heard of nonsense. I know he spoke with a few families last night that are taking Translarna. So 21 years ago, he had this idea, you know what, I'm going to work and be very, so he fought basically for the last 21 years for the boys with Duchenne, and 21 years later, he's still fighting for the boys. He's very committed. We are very committed to Duchenne, and that's a big reason why we're here today as well, because to show our commitment. We're currently at about 750 employees, but the big thing is, this is our pipeline right now, and very early in the phase, we just had DMD. As you can see, there's a lot of other disease states that we are working on right now. And the big thing about those disease states is we are getting bigger, and we continue to grow. This slide's actually outdated. This past week, we also acquired another company. So 21 years ago, he had this idea, you know what, I'm going to work and be very, so he fought basically for the last 21 years for the boys with Duchenne, and that's a big reason why we're here today as well, because to show our commitment. We continue to acquire company, but again, the more companies we acquire, the more resources we have, and then also it goes back to DMV. Again, that's what we've been passionate about for the last 21 years, and that's what we will continue to be passionate about for hopefully the next 21 years as well, and so on. This kind of a timeline, as I said, 21 years ago, Adelorn was discovered by our CEO, Stu Peltz, and we are continuing to work with the governments to get it approved. And as you can see, we also have Inflaza in the US. One thing that I didn't mention is Adelorn and Translarna is approved in Europe and then in Brazil as well. And again, we're still fighting for it here and in the US. Our goal at PTC is to give the best-in-class therapies, and that includes a little bit of everything. On here, as you can see, earlier diagnosis. By us getting out to educate the medical community, educating families, it's going to hopefully get earlier diagnosis, increase disease awareness. As a patient engagement, our big job is to educate families, educate the medical community. Education is a big part of providing that. And again, we want to provide support for each and every family in here. And then genotyping, and then improving standards of care. As in the US, they've changed the standards of care this past year. Up here it says PTC is committed to Duchenne families through ongoing programs. So as I go to these meetings, as patient engagement goes to these different meetings, again, we want to hear from the families. What's important to you guys? What can we do to help you through this process, through your journey? And these are different programs that we started at PTC to help because of what we've heard from you. Some of the ones I'll talk real quick is Duchenne and You. That's just a website that you can sign on that'll give you information about Duchenne. Siblings program is a first-in-a-kind program, and actually it's kind of exciting with that one because with the siblings program, a lot of times families will have, they'll be able, say they got two boys with Duchenne. One boy might be able to basically they fit the inclusion criteria so they can participate in the clinical trial. Unfortunately, they might have another son that is unable to participate in the clinical trial. So at PTC, we feel it's important to allow families to have both boys on the treatment once it opens up to an open label, which basically means there's no placebo controlled at that point. So that's something that we feel is important for the families. We want to provide that treatment for all boys in the same family. STRIDE program is a competitive grant program for nonprofit organizations. Decode Duchenne is a program that we participate with an organization in the US. Again, that's for families that are unable to get testing, genetic testing, if the insurance doesn't cover it, or if there's financial reasons why they can't get genetic testing. And this isn't just for the boys, this is for the family members as well. A lot of times the moms or sisters get overlooked because, you know what, they don't know if they're a carrier. So for this, that's a program that we actually have that is available for people in the US and Canada. Peer Navigator program, that's something that we started just about a year ago. And again, that's for families that want to talk about Duchenne, and we have Duchenne families that are interested in talking to families to kind of talk to them about their experience living with Duchenne. And PTC Cares, I think I got a slide about that. So PTC Cares, that's more for the US and for getting access and getting them drugs for little to no out-of-pocket costs. But again, that's more US based. And this slide, just real quick, I want to talk about real quick. So being from Canada, I know we already talked about hockey. So I'm a big hockey fan here too as well. And with hockey, you got your coach. As a family member, as a mom, a caregiver, a dad, you are the coach. And as a coach, you got a lot of different people that you need to work with. And on here, it's not an easy journey. You guys are working with a lot of different specialists, and it's hard to read over there, but you got the family navigator, you got the cardiologist, the respiratory therapist, physical therapist, corticosteroids, a little bit of everything. So you guys have a lot on your plate. So with PTC, again, education is a big part of it, and we want to be there for you to help you with the education. And if there's any information that you need from us, we'd be happy to help you out. And this is the last slide, measure by moments. As I said earlier, when I was diagnosed, the industry people, actually they're great friends of mine still to this day. I still talk to them. Talked to one of my buddies that was with the company that developed the treatment for my disease just this past week. And again, they know all about my family. They care about me. And again, as a PTC representative, I want to be that way for you as well, if you guys allow me to do that. As it says up here, it basically says, you know what, measured by moments. It's not just what we are doing today. It's not what we did in the past. We measure each and every small baby steps, because if we're looking at the small steps, it's like, okay, hopefully there will be hope in the future and we will continue to work together. So I guess the big thing is today is I appreciate everybody that is here today. If there's anything that we can do for you at PTC, as Rick said earlier, I'd love to meet each and every one of you. With the little breaks, it's going to be a little bit challenging, but hopefully after or during lunch, I'd love to meet and see what's important to you and see how we can help each and every one of you. So again, thank you for coming. I want to thank Jesse's Journey for having us today. It's an honor to be part of this. And again, thanks, and it looks like it's going to be a wonderful program. Thank you.